In a village bound by tradition, a tale of love, heartbreak, and liberation unfolds. Witness the journey of a princess, a young villager, and a community as they challenge the chains of the past and forge a new path forward. Get ready to be transported to a world of drama, romance, and transformation as the story comes alive. In a village nestled between two rivers and surrounded by ancient mountains, the tradition of Qarohuma had ruled over love and marriage for generations. It was believed to be a sacred commitment. Once a man performed the Qarohuma ritual by beating the village drum for 3 days and 3 nights, the woman he chose would be promised to him. Her life, her future, her very identity, would be bound to his word, even if that word was later broken. The royal family itself was not immune to the power of this custom. Princess Amarachi, the daughter of the king, had fallen in love with Magnus Stones Son, a foreigner who had come with his father to the village to mine for solid minerals. The romance blossomed, and before long, the king demanded that the young man perform Quarohuma to secure his daughter's hand in marriage. Eager to please, Magnus' son agreed, performing the ritual with grand celebration. The royal family was overjoyed, and the village whispered about the grand wedding that would unite two powerful families. But as fate would have it, after the ceremony, the father and son returned to their homeland to finalize wedding preparations, promising to return soon with their people. Time passed, and while Princess Amarachi carried their unborn child, her hope for their union grew with each passing day. But the young man never returned. The company's operations in the village were halted by their government, which demanded documentation, causing delay after delay. Magnus Stones Son sent money, messages, even a name for the child, Prince Gilbert, but he never came back to marry her. Worse still, word reached the village that he had married someone else abroad and had 3 children with this other woman. The once proud princess, now the mother of a son, found herself trapped in the palace, hidden from the world by shame. She had all the luxuries of royal life, yet she felt hollow inside, a prisoner of both the tradition that had promised her happiness and the man who had deceived her. Her son, Gilbert, grew up knowing his father from afar but was never fully part of his world. The Qarohuma that was meant to guarantee love had instead locked the princess in a life of regret. The spark of revolution. As the years went by, the village's faith in Qarohuma began to crack. The story of Princess Amarachi's broken promise was known to all, but no one dared speak of it in the king's presence. That was, until a young man named Obina fell in love with a woman named Irima. Obina was also involved with another woman, Chinye, who had borne him a child. Under the old ways, the elders demanded that he perform Qarohuma for Chinye, but Obina refused. "I will not," he declared. "I love Irima, and I will not be bound by a tradition that has only caused misery." Chinye, already aware of Obina's love for Irima, did not press him. She, too, had seen what Qarohuma had done to the women of the village. Her own aunt had waited for decades for a man who never returned. She didn't want to be another woman tied down by an empty promise. Obina's defiance stirred something in the heart of the people. Whispers of discontent grew louder. Women who had been abandoned, men who had felt forced into commitments they could not keep, all began to speak out. Obina, emboldened by the growing support, led a protest, demanding the abolishment of Qarohuma. "The king will not listen," the elders warned. But Obina refused to back down. He gathered men, women, and families who had suffered under the weight of the tradition. They marched to the palace gates, calling for an end to Qarohuma. The king, set in his ways, refused to listen. He believed the tradition was sacred, and that it kept the village in order. But the people had seen too much heartbreak, too many lives ruined by a custom that had outlived its usefulness. The fall of Qarohuma. As the protests grew louder, the king's grip on the tradition weakened. Young men refused to perform the ritual. Women no longer demanded it. Families who once revered Qarohuma began to question its purpose. The revolution had begun, not with swords or fire, but with the voices of a people tired of being bound by a custom that caused more harm than good. The final blow came when it was revealed publicly that Magnus Stones Son, who had performed Qarohuma with the princess, had married another woman abroad. The once whispered rumors were now shouted in the streets. How could a tradition meant to secure marriage be upheld if even the royal family had been betrayed by it? Seeing the tide of public opinion turning against him, the king was forced to gather the elders and the people. Reluctantly, he announced the end of Qarohuma. "It is time we move forward," the king declared, his voice heavy with the weight of his own daughter's suffering. "No longer will we bind our sons and daughters to a tradition that traps them in promises they cannot fulfill." Aftermath. The village erupted in celebration. Men and women, young and old, rejoiced as the chains of Qarohuma were broken. Princess Amarachi, though her heart was still burdened with the pain of betrayal, found solace in knowing that no other woman would suffer as she had. Her son, Gilbert, now 16, looked at his mother with pride, knowing that her sacrifice had paved the way for a brighter future. Obina married Irima in a ceremony free from the weight of tradition. Chinye, no longer bound by the expectations of Quarohuma, found love elsewhere and was able to live a life of her choosing. The village had changed, and with it, so had its people. The story of Qarohuma became a tale told to children as a warning of how even the most sacred traditions can become harmful if they are not questioned and allowed to evolve. And as the sun set over the village, nestled between the rivers and mountains, the people knew they had forged a new path, one built on love, freedom, and the courage to defy what no longer served them.